right, so today we're going to look at lesson 3.4, Venn diagrams. This is part 2. So in the last lesson we looked at Venn diagrams with 2 circles. This time we're going to look at Venn diagrams with 3 circles. So we're going to look at more examples where we're shading the different pieces to see where it fits in the diagram, and we're going to look at some word problems. Now, what I might suggest is take a look at the notes, try doing the questions yourself first, and then come back and watch the video. But I'll walk you through this and I'll give you some tips as we go along. So the first example says the Venn diagram displays the results of a survey of 100 students in a high school regarding movies they watched in the last 2 weeks. B is going to represent Beauty and the Beast, K is going to represent Kong, Skull Island, and G is going to represent Goon. So anytime that I'm working with Venn diagrams, I mentioned this in the last lesson, I find it helpful to use colors to separate all of my circles. So I've got blue for Beauty and the Beast, green for Kong, and red for Goon. And so as we look through this, by having them contained in circles, the blue circle helps me see that there's a 68, a 2, a 1, and a 6 that all fit in the blue circle. There's a 2 and a 17 and so on that fit in the K. And then the red circle also has 4 numbers included in it. So the first question here asks, how many students watched only Goon? Well, in Goon, I've got a 6, a 3, a 1, and a 1, but the number that represents students who watched only Goon would be 3. Now, how many students watched Goon? That would be everything that's in the red circle, and so that would be 6 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1, which is 11. Now, I don't always write down the 6 plus 3 and so on. Having just that circle is enough to show your work, but for the purposes of the notes, I'm writing out how I'm getting those numbers. Part C says, how many students watched Kong, Skull Island, and Beauty and the Beast? So I'm looking for an overlap between the 2 points, or between the 2 movies. So Beauty and the Beast is the blue circle, K is the green circle. So if I look at where the 2 overlap, that's going to be this piece right here, and this piece right here, and that's going to be a 2 plus 6, which is 8. The next question says, how many students watched Kong, Skull Island, or Beauty and the Beast? So or means one or the other or both. So that means anything that's in Beauty and the Beast and anything that's in Kong. This is going to be a longer list. That would be 68 plus 2 plus 6 plus 1 plus 1 plus 17 for a total of 95. Now, if I'm asked how many students watched all 3 films, that's where I'm looking at the point where all 3 overlap. And that's just going to be right here, which is 6. The next question says, what does the number 2 outside the 3 circles represent? So if we look up here, there's a little 2 that's outside. That would represent all of the people who watched a movie, but they didn't watch Beauty and the Beast or Kong or Goon. Okay? So in other words, they watched none of the movies. And then the last question says, what does the 2 inside the circle represent? So if we look at this 2 right here, this would be all of the people who watched Beauty and the Beast or Kong, but not, Beauty and the Beast and Kong, but not Goon. Okay, so if you remember all of the people we asked before, the number of people that watched Kong and Beauty and the Beast was 8, and that came from doing 6 plus 2. Well, the 6 are the people who watched all 3. So the 2 is going to be all of the people who watched Kong and Beauty and the Beast, but not Goon. Now, another way that you can say that is the people who watched only Kong and Beauty and the Beast. So it would be, you could describe it as the people who watched Kong and Beauty and the Beast, but not Goon, or you could describe it as the people who watched only Kong and Beauty and the Beast. And you'll see those descriptors used in some of the examples that we go through, as well as your assignment. So we're going to do a little bit of shading again. You might want to pull out some highlighters. If you remember from the last lesson, anything that involves an intersection, so an and, I tend to use 2 different colors of highlighters and see where the colors overlap. When it's or, you can just get away with 1 color because it's one or the other or both. So the first question here, it says, where is A and B? Well, I want to know where A and B overlap, and so this time I'm just going to shade the region. So A and B would involve those 2 pieces there. So the circle A is here. The circle B is here. And where those 2 circles overlap is the blue section. Now, if I'm looking at A or B, then I'm looking at numbers that fall in A or B or both. So this would be A, and this would be B. So it would be the 2 circles. If I'm looking at A and not B, that means everything that's in A but not in B. Well, everything that's in A is here. But I need to erase everything that's not in B. So that would take out all of this piece here. So in the end, the part that is A and not B is just this piece here. And the last one, A and not B and not C. Well, this is all of A right here. But if I want to consider all of the pieces that are A, but not B and not C, that's just going to leave me with this piece right in here. Now, those are just a few examples. There's certainly a lot of different ways I can ask the same question, but it should give you an idea how we can shade those. So you're going to look at 2 more examples where we're dealing with specific numbers. Example number 3 says at Eagle Butte High School, 185 grade 12 students were surveyed to determine which soft drinks they like to drink. We've got the list here. We know how many drank all 3, how many drank root beer and Coke, and so on. We're going to use that information to fill in the Venn diagram and then answer the related questions. Anytime that we're given these types of questions, the first number that I want to deal with is who drank all 3. Sometimes that's an unknown value, and then we have to work backwards to find out our answers. But ultimately, that's the point that we need to get to, is how many drank all 3. Another tip that we can use as we're doing these types of questions is to check them off as we deal with them. And be careful to read for words like only, or, and so on. So first of all, we know that 25 drank all 3. That's indicated right in the center of the circle. 52 drank root beer and Coke. Well, the overlap between root beer and Coke is right here. And notice that the 27 and the 25 adds up to 52. So we get the 27 by taking 52 minus 25. So now we're going to go about using that same method to fill in the rest of the Venn diagram. 43 drank Coke and iced tea. Well, Coke and iced tea is this piece right here. And so we already have the 25, so if we take 43 and subtract 25, we get 18. And again, check it off as we go. And then we have 57 who drank root beer and iced tea. Well, root beer and iced tea is this piece right here. 57 take away 25 is 32, because again, the 32 and the 25 has to add up to 57. The next descriptor says 92 drank root beer. Well, if I'm looking at just the root beer, 92 drank root beer, that would be this green circle right here. So this green circle has to add up to 92. Well, I already have a 27, a 25, and a 32. So the 92, take away what I've already listed, 27, 25, and 32, leaves me with 8. So there's 8 left in that. So again, that entire green circle has to add up to 92. 115 drank Coke. So 115, take away the 27, the 25, and the 18, leaves me with 45. And the last one, 100 drank iced tea. So I'm going to take the 100 and subtract the 18, the 25, and the 32, and it's going to leave me with 25 people drinking iced tea. Now, as I said in the last lesson, you have to always go through and make sure that everything adds up. If we add up all of these numbers, we only get 180. But we're told that there was 185 grade 12 students. So that means there's 5 people who didn't like any of those 3 options. So let's take a look at the rest of the questions. Basically, I kind of already went through how to explain the Venn diagram, but we can talk about some of these pieces here. So the first question says, explain why she placed the number 27 in the region immediately above 25. Well, she did that because 27 and 25 has to add up to 52. So 25 plus 27 has to equal 52. Part B we've already done. Part C says determine the sum of all the numbers inside the circles. If this sum is not equal to 185, determine the number that must be placed outside the region. Well, 185 minus 180, that's how we get the 5. Okay? And then again, once you have your Venn diagram filled in, I can ask you a multitude of questions. So you'll have to refer to your Venn diagram as we do these questions. The first one says, how many students drank only Coke? Well, Coke is going to be this blue circle here, but only Coke is going to be 45. So that's the area that's not involved with any of the overlaps. How many students did not like to drink any of the 3 drinks? Well, that's the number that's outside, which is 5. And then how many students drank Coke or root beer? So Coke or root beer means it's Coke or root beer or both. So Coke is right here, and root beer is here. So Coke or root beer or both, we'd be adding up all of those numbers, and we get 155. All right, one last example. Brandon was asked to solve the following problem. 240 students were surveyed to determine which fast food restaurants they liked, and the choices are KFC, Little Caesars, and Tino's. Brandon does his solution, and he says he added up the first 6 results of the survey, and he subtracted the number of students who ate all three restaurants. Then he subtracted this value from the total number of students surveyed, and he got negative 84. So he said this answer is not possible, so he knows he made a mistake. And the question is, what error did he make? So we're going to go through and do it our way, and then see where he might have made his mistake. So starting off, when I have this list, the first thing I want to figure out is how many like all 3. So I have 13 people liking all 3. That goes in the middle. The next one says, so I'm actually going to work backwards. It says 11 students like Little Caesars and Tino's, but not KFC. So Little Caesars and Tino's is going to be this area right here. But it says, but not KFC. So I don't actually have to do any subtracting. So that would mean that 13 plus 11, 24 people like Tino's or Little Caesars, but 11 people like Little Caesars, but not KFC. So again, I can ask these questions in a slightly different way, and it totally changes how you put everything in the diagram. 19 like KFC and Tino's, but not Little Caesars. So KFC and Tino's is this part here, but it says not Little Caesars, so this is going to be 19. And then 37 like KFC and Little Caesars, but not Tino's. That makes this 37. And then the last 3. Dealing with the big circle is always our last step before we consider how many are outside, unless we're given that information. So it says that 90 like Tino's. So that means my entire circle for Tino's has to add up to 90. So if I take 90 and I subtract the 19, the 13, and the 11, I get 47. For Little Caesars, 90 students liked Little Caesars. So again, 90 take away 37, take away 13, take 11, or take away 11 gives me 29. And then the last part is KFC, and 90 like KFC. So 90 take away 19, take away 13, take away 37, leaves me with 21. Now, if I take a look at my diagram, I add it all up, I don't get 240 students. So if I take the 240 and I subtract all the numbers that are in that circle, I'm left with a 63 outside. And that 63 would represent all the people who were surveyed but didn't like either of the three choices. So again, if we look at Brandon's solution here, he said he added up 90, 90, 90, 37, 19, 11, and then he subtracted the 13 and he got 324. And then he has 240 minus 324 equals negative 84. Well, what's the error that he made? He didn't account for the people that are not included in any of the survey. The way he's done the question, he's assumed that all people like at least one of those three. Okay, and so we've already done the correction of the error by doing the question. All right, so that's everything for these diagrams. There is one type of example I have not given you, and that's if there's an X in the inside piece. Those are a standard of excellence type question, but we'll look at those another day, not today. All right, make sure you ask questions if you have any questions in class, or touch base with me either through Messenger or Google Meet. Have a good night.